Ever get that feeling like the ground is shifting right under your business? Like all the old rules just don't really apply anymore? Well, you're not wrong. Today, we're going to break down 5 huge megatrends that are totally changing the game for every entrepreneur out there. And more importantly, we'll talk about what you can do to not just get by, but to actually win.
Now, this quote right here, it nails it. We're not talking about passing fads or the latest hot thing. These are massive, long-term shifts that can either propel your business into the stratosphere or, well, clobber it. The choice is really up to you. Are you going to ride the wave or are you going to get pulled under?
So what exactly makes a trend a megatrend? Well, according to John Naisbitt, the guy who came up with the term, it's got to be a real game changer. First, it's universal. It affects pretty much everyone. Second, it's epic. We're not talking about some small niche thing here. And maybe most importantly, it's not going anywhere. It hangs around. Think of it like a massive tectonic shift, changing the very landscape of our world.
All right, now that we've got a handle on what a megatrend is, let's jump into our first one, and it's a big one. There's a massive upheaval happening in not just where your customers live, but more importantly, who they even are. You might be shocked to find out that your perfect customer from 5 years ago, they've kind of packed up and moved on.
Look, people are moving like never before, and it's not just about getting a better view. This is a fundamental shift in values, in politics, in what people want out of life. So that marketing message that works great in Boston, yeah, it's probably going to fall completely flat in Austin. This cultural divide is very real, and as a business owner, you just can't afford to ignore it.
And it's not just where people are living, it's how they're living. That traditional life path of school, marriage, house, kids, that's pretty much a thing of the past. People are getting married later, buying houses way later, and starting families much, much later. And that means marketing to somebody just based on their age, it just doesn't work anymore. You've got to focus on their life stage, their values, their mindset.
Okay, this is a perfect and kind of hilarious example of what happens when you just don't get your audience. So you've got this group of young marketers, and they thought rock star sex was the killer angle to sell an herbal Viagra product to senior citizens. They could not have been more wrong. You know what their customers actually wanted? Reliability, something dependable, not some wild night out. It's a funny story, but man, is it a powerful cautionary tale.
So what's the solution here? The big takeaway? You have got to know your customers on a way, way deeper level. It is not enough to just know their age and gender anymore. You have to understand their politics, their values, their lifestyle, what actually makes them tick. The era of one-size-fits-all marketing is, without a doubt, officially over.
All right, now let's talk about a trend that's, well, it's all in our heads, but it has very, very real consequences for your bottom line. It's called the mind recession, and it might be the single biggest and frankly, the weirdest challenge you're facing right now as an entrepreneur.
You ever get that feeling that the sky is falling, even when the sun is shining outside? That is exactly what is happening with our economy right now. A huge chunk of the population is absolutely convinced we're in a terrible recession, even when all the actual data tells a completely different and frankly, much more positive story. It is a classic case of negative feelings just stomping all over reality.
I mean, just look at the gap on this chart. It is enormous. On one side, you've got all this anxiety, people totally stressing about making ends meet. And on the other, you've got a really strong economy with solid growth and wages actually beating inflation. This massive disconnect is a huge problem because it creates a climate of fear, and that fear just paralyzes people from making confident buying decisions. $700 a week on food delivery. Now, does that sound like a country that's in the middle of some massive affordability crisis? The truth is, people are absolutely willing to spend money, and a lot of it, on the things that really matter to them. Your job is to show them why your product or your service is one of those things.
You can't just ignore this mind recession and hope it magically goes away. You've got to tackle it head on. In your marketing, you should acknowledge their feelings of uncertainty, but then you immediately counter them with cold, hard facts. Show them that now is actually a fantastic time to invest in themselves, and that what you're offering is the key to doing just that. Okay, let's pivot and talk about the double-edged sword that is technology. Because on one hand, it offers these absolutely incredible opportunities for growth and efficiency, but on the other hand, it can be a really, really dangerous trap for any entrepreneur who isn't paying attention. So AI is the latest shiny object that every single business is chasing after. But here's the deal. A lot of them are putting the cart way before the horse. They're so obsessed with adopting the latest AI tech that they're not even stopping to ask the most basic question. Does this actually solve a real pressing problem we have? It's a classic case of having a solution that's desperately looking for a problem to solve.
Hey, remember when the big tobacco companies were exposed for lying about how dangerous smoking was? Well, it kind of feels like social media is having its tobacco moment right now. We're seeing the exact same pattern. Engineer addiction, deny everything, and disregard the well-being of your users. The writing is on the wall, and frankly, it is not looking good for the platforms that so many businesses completely rely on.
Look, if your entire business is built on one single platform, you are playing a very, very dangerous game. It's like building your dream house on a foundation of sand. All it takes is one algorithm change, one new regulation, and the tide can come in and just wash it all away. We've seen it happen before, and believe me, we are definitely going to see it happen again.
So how do you protect yourself from all this? The answer is you need to build a business that isn't just strong, but that's anti-fragile. That means you got to diversify your marketing channels, you've got to build a strong brand that can live anywhere, and, maybe most importantly, you have to remember that in a world that's automating everything, the human touch is more valuable than it has ever been.
And all of that brings us to our final, and honestly, maybe the most challenging megatrend of all, this relentless, ongoing war against being different. I mean, in a world where it seems like everyone is trying to look and sound exactly the same, how on earth do you stand out from the crowd?
The modern marketplace is just an incredibly noisy, incredibly crowded place. Everyone is shouting, trying to be heard, but almost no one is saying anything new or different. And this sea of sameness is a death sentence for businesses because it takes your unique, special offering and turns it into just another commodity. And you know what happens when you're a commodity, right? The only thing that matters is price.
This slide right here is a really sobering reminder of what happens when you fail to be different. I mean, these were giants, absolute titans of their industries, but they all made the exact same fatal mistake. They forgot to give their customers a real, compelling reason to choose them over anybody else. And in the end, they just became irrelevant and got left behind.
So what's the ultimate solution to all this noise? You can't just try to be a little bit better than your competition. You have to be fundamentally different. The goal isn't just to be the best choice in your category. The goal is to create a category of your own where you are the only logical choice. It's not about being the best, it's about being the only.
So, we've covered a ton of ground here, from demographics to mindsets to technology. So what does this all boil down to? What's the actual plan? Well, your business's survival code really rests on these three incredibly powerful pillars. This is the key to not just surviving what's coming, but actually thriving in it.
This is your mandate. First, you have to be surgically precise in who you talk to and what you're saying. Second, you have to build an anti-fragile business that isn't going to crumble if one channel disappears. And third, you have to be so different that in the mind of your perfect customer, you literally have no competition at all. That's the winning trifecta.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one final question to really think about. Is your business built to be fragile, something that could get knocked over by the next big shift? Or is it built to be anti-fragile, something that actually gets stronger from all the chaos? The choice is yours, and the future of your business depends on it. Thanks for joining us.